done for me lately? It's Coons. What have y'all done for us lately? And if there's no answer, the only thing we owe them.
Hey, good evening. What's going on? And tonight, myself and Professor Drea will be having a second part of our conversation. We took a week off. We'll be having a second part of our conversation in reference to Black America's relationship with mental health. And tonight, we're going to really focus on having a conversation between a man and a woman. And I know this is a touchy subject for most people, because we hear it when we hear about this gender war that has been plaguing the Black community, not forever, but for quite some time, and it leads to a divide. So myself as a man and Drea as Professor Drea as a woman, we need to address or really have a conversation about Black men, and particularly our Black youth's relationship with mental health. The stigma, what goes on, because every day you can literally open up the internet. Used to say you can open up the newspaper, but you can open up the internet and you will literally see a young man has crashed out. And we even use crash out as like a funny joke within our community. Oh, you crashed out. You crashed out. No, the reality is that he harmed himself and others in his crash. We see it over and over, where somebody in these internet streets have really harmed themselves and harmed others. And one of the things that we don't want to continue to do is see things that plague our community and never address it. We never say nothing about it. We just let it go on and on. We make shows about it. It's content creators. It goes viral, but no solution is done. And the reality is that sometimes we get mad at other people who are profiting off our culture, but then we're the biggest profiteers off of our own dysfunction. Mm-hmm. So I have our Professor Drea here, my sister. We have a very, very, and I don't really get into it as much like I used to. We have a very, very unique friendship. I'm her big brother, sister. And understanding that as men and women who are supposed to have healthy relationships with each other, respect each other's boundaries, and have those relationships where you could communicate, conversate, and encourage one each other to be at their best without it being a quick pro quo, with it coming from a sincere place. Like, look, you've been out of pocket. Like, what's going on? You need to treat yourself better than you've been treating yourself, or you can do better. And sometimes in our community, we have to always make the mistake first and then do a course correct, instead of learning from other people's mistakes. And this is something that I personally started realizing in my own personal life before I even decided to embark on these YouTube streets, was really looking at not only my mistakes, but looking at other people's mistakes and not falling into the same pitfalls.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to do that with our youth, with knowing how to problem solve, knowing how to have some type of real cognitive skills when they're dealing with life on life's terms. Definitely our young men, and I'll say it, women emulate the men. We always say, oh, the women is out of pocket, the sisters is doing this, they doing that. But the reality is that women look at their men or look at the men of society and they follow their lead. So if you want strong women, you want women who know how, as we would say, know their place and their role in society, and not saying that they are lower than men. We're saying that there are roles in gender, but they're going to look for men. You always hear, and I always hear, where's the strong men? There ain't no strong men out here. Men don't know how to hold a good cognitive conversation. You always hear that. And for some men that do know how to hold those good conversations and know how to have good problem solving skills, we may not understand that it is a lot of men that are emotionally, spiritually, they're closed. That
Mm-hmm.
all they know how to do is function in dysfunction,
Right.
chaos. I had a conversation today, and before we get into the show, but I had a conversation today, and somebody was telling me about Puffy documentary on Netflix, and they were saying that third hand information is that he hit his mother. And the first thing I said was, I'm not surprised if that's true. If
Mm-hmm.
you know who Puffy was, if you know who his mother was prior to, and these are allegations, right? But if you know who he was and you know who his mother was prior to, and you understand that level of dysfunction within our community, that should not surprise anybody. Not saying it's right, but it should not surprise anybody. I know people who use drugs with their parents.
Mm-hmm.
I know people who sat at bars, shooting galleries. When I was a kid, when they used to have shooting galleries back in the day, people would go in there and they'll see their parents in the shooting gallery. So this new phenomenon that we have, these ills in our community are what they are. They're ills in our community, and we should be more gatekeeper of our community. We're trying to police it and help it, and people get their help, and so forth and so on. So, without further
I love the
ado,
introduction. That's important. And what you have said about, I would say, black people, but especially black men, the reason why it's a list of reasons why they don't receive the help that they need. But you hit it on the head as far as with the emotional suppression of, I'm a man, I'm exteriorly tough, right? But interiorly I'm cracking. And in my environment, I'm supposed to be tough. So of course behaviorally we see these violent acts against one another, against women, against children. You're seeing that too, because of now it's manifesting from within to now environmentally. And me being trained as a social worker, we always look at, that's why I like being a social worker, because we look at the entire person, the totality, not just the mental, but we look at the mental, the physical, the emotional, and spiritual health. And you seeing even the spirituality dying, because at one point, our spirituality was so intact in our community. Now people like forget, spirituality, and it doesn't have to mean the church or the mosque or whatever preference of religion that you subscribe to. It's like we don't have those leaders like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Booker T. Washington. And I understand those was men with many issues and different complexities, but at the same time, you did see order and structure. We just see a lot of agents of chaos. We see a lot of chaotic because once again, it's now manifested to mental health issues that has been unchecked and undiagnosed for so long. And like you said, we open up social media, here we go, the crash outs, right? The crash outs against oneself, the crash out against, families or a girlfriend, whatever. And what make you go to the point in which you can't have a conversation with the person that you love, or they may give you a correction. Correction goes both ways. And I think a lot of times men feel that, well, I can correct and control this, individual, a woman, because she's lesser than me. But if the woman's saying, hey, you need to go seek some mental health assistance, here goes the crash out, right? And a lot of times, the women and the physicians, if they go to the doctor, we're the ones referring our significant others, our brothers, our dads, to seek assistance, but at the same time, too, but at what cost? And it has to take a woman, unfortunately, to walk away, to say, this is the fine line. I'm walking away from this situation. And a lot of times, will they go seek help after that? I don't know. But when I was
It
doing, go ahead.
shouldn't. Let me just cut you off for 1 second, Dre. I truly apologize. We should not be getting to the point in our society, in our culture, where our women, as black men, as younger black men, when we see our younger black men, 18 to 34, when we see them doing things that we've done that lead down a certain path, we should not wait until they get into a relationship or think they're into a relationship. Because what happens is, as men, we either do one or two things in situations. We either bring peace or we bring war. And in a lot of cases, we're destroying any type of foundation that we're trying to create with black women, because we don't know how to problem solve. We don't know how to critically think. We don't understand that sister, she's not with you for what you got in your pants. She should be with you for what you bring to the table financially, emotionally, spiritually. Are you capable of building on your own and being able to be in a partnership with her to build together? Instead, it's more, unfortunately, because of, we know certain things, that exterior factors, where the sisters are more established now. So now he's not bringing nothing to the table. He's coming to this relationship as her son, figuratively her son.
Right.
Like, he's not an asset. He's more of a liability, where she's taking care of him. And now she's saying, where he might have emotional outbursts over petty things, she'd be like, this guy got anger issues. Like, serious. I'm just telling him, like, look, make sure you take the garbage out. Make sure before you leave the house or whatever, make sure you clean up behind yourself, whatever.
Exactly.
He's outbursting over the smallest little things, where he's showing he's not emotionally mature. But as men, and I'm not speaking to you, Freya, but as men, we see these things, we see these telltale signs, and I think that a lot of times, the men need to start being men, and the men need to start dealing and checking with the community, and being able to have some type of self-control with dealing with each other and dealing with the women in their lives.
Absolutely. And I agree with that. And that goes back to environmental, right? That goes back to when I'm just going to say, that man was conceived. What type of environment was the parents in? I'm saying parents, the mother and the father, because it takes two people, okay? Unless you go into the sperm bank, it still takes two people. What type of environment, and I don't think we understand that, what type of environment were they in? So, because it's a cycle, and we always talk about this generational trauma, but it's a cycle, right? Was these two people even meant to be together? Was they even in a healthy, established relationship? Because a lot of times these kids are being brought in, through vessels who are also codependent. They lack maturity, and also too, what I see it in my own family. They'll throw this picture up. Oh, we together, we having this baby, and then once the baby is born, you no longer see those parents together. And then they feel like, well, now I can take this kid and put it in an environment in which, the grandparent has to raise it, right? And I feel like, to keep it real with y'all can get upset. A lot of moms coddle these sons. They need, and the daughters just go off and do what they have to do. But a lot of them are coddled. A lot of these young men are seeing dysfunction in their own homes. The cycle of these emotionally immature parents, bringing in different significant others. It's a lot of abuse that goes on with young black men. They getting abused emotionally, physically, sexually, and people not having those conversations. Then okay, they go to school hungry. They may be the oldest and taking care of three other siblings, and they may be 5 years old, right? Then you go to school. School is sometimes a pipeline to prison. You got school resource officers, and I'll talk about this in a minute, instead of social workers and other resources that should be needed for those young people. And girls are always going to be okay, but it's the boys who I'm concerned about, because you start seeing these behaviors at a younger age now of just the dysfunction. They're just acting out what they see at home. There's a lot of these kids are getting yelled at. Like I said, they're getting abused. And then now you're seeing them turn into, and I don't like this term, but I'm gonna use it for the sake, the YNs. They're turning into the YNs now because of, okay, my mom ain't paying attention. She's not putting me into sports. She's not putting me into boys and girls club or having a big brother. Oh, now I'm going to the streets. I'm going to turn into this YN because they showing me love. They showing me this. All boys don't have to go into sports, but they need to have some type of foundation around other older, mature, keyword mature, holistically mature men. And it doesn't have to be the dad. It could be uncles. It could be the neighbors, whoever. Because I've seen that within my own environment, within my own family, of just the mature men saying, "Hey, such and such don't have a dad. Now we in there to help raise this kid." And sometimes the moms have to back up and let the men do the job, right? Just like where I'm a big football fan. I don't have children that go to the school system where I live at. Now I've been supporting them. They're going to the state championship. And I hear, of course, the moms, "Oh, don't tackle my son like that, ma'am. This is football. He needs to get tackled, and that coach needs to go in on his behind, because that's teaching them discipline, consistency, and also to how to talk to other people and have resiliency." You see a lot of crash outs because these young men do not have resiliency. They just ready to just end it all, and everybody's going with them, right? So it's just, sometimes we just have to once again look at the mature men in our environment, and stop ostracizing them too, saying, "Oh, well, they think they white because they got the white man education." I hear that a lot, and I'm
Yeah.
like, because they went to college or they went to go get a trade or they decide to go a different path in life. And we need to stop ostracizing them and let them back in this community, and also to help raise these young men, because if we don't, we're going to lose them to the prison system. We're going to lose them, to them dying at an early age. And you're seeing a lot of young black men dying at an early age because of ego. You know, ego is a big thing too. Like, oh, son said this to me one line, oh, I'm about to get at him, and because I'm not trying to sit up here and be walk away, that's weak. I gotta go get at him, and then now this person's doing a t-shirt.
So, we got our brother Black Laren in the chat, right? He had put up some comments. I want you to address one thing.
Okay.
And I'm gonna address it. I'm gonna address the first question. The first statement he put up, and I'm gonna give the second one to you. He put up 3, but I'm gonna address it. Black Laren, peace, bro. I'm gonna say it's white supremacy, in my personal opinion. And the reason why is because look what we've been through as Native Black Americans. We've been through slavery. We've been through some stuff, man. We've been through some stuff. When you think about how you got here and how your ancestors got to you, we've been through some stuff. And those men, though they like Sister Drea said, they were not perfect, but they were men. They were men who took responsibility. My grandfather left Lumpkin, Georgia, with a 3rd grade education and went to Chicago, had 3 kids, left Chicago and went to New Jersey. And only had 2 jobs ever in his lifetime: a board of education job, and then he retired from Ford. 7 kids, and was a man's man. I'm not saying he was perfect, but he was a man's man. He took responsibility. He made sure that, now my grandmother died first, but they left their kids, their living kids, a legacy. It even trickled down to the grandkids. So I'm not saying that WS didn't play a part, but I don't think that it's playing a part with what our younger people are going through today, with not being able how to problem solve, have the necessary skills to succeed. You see them now that most of them have no skills. The main thing that the younger people doing now is scamming. They ain't even, as in my generation, jokers was D-boys. They ain't D-boys. They scamming. And even the D-boys back in the day, they went to the college parties. They dealt with an educated girl because they knew that the D-boy stuff was trying to impress the girl. It was more about, I'm going to make money to impress the girl. Nowadays, jokers is scamming just to be scamming. Mm-hmm. And there is definitely a lack of jobs, Black Larry. But I'm gonna give this other question to Sister Professor Drea that you put up. Hard to man up when your moms prefer not to have a father in your life.
And I have a lot of commentary. Okay, I like this statement, and I have a lot of commentary about this because, like I just mentioned, I'm one of those women, because I have a lot of men in my family. Women have to back up time to time, let that man deal with that boy, right? Because I know so many women, they may think differently. We have limitations when it comes to being a man. We don't know what it's like being a man. We're women. That's why I said with sports, when I have heard that lady was like, why he's talking to my son like that? Ma'am, he needs to talk to your son like that. He probably needs to come to your house every day and talk to him like that and do some and show him what a man's man is. And a lot of times women, we have to back up. And also too, as from a woman's perspective, we also got to do a better job with our self-esteem and pick the right men to procreate with. Because a lot of times we know who the men tell us who they are. And I have said this like in right. They tell us who they are, but we decide to, we're not going to listen to what homeboy said because he looked good. He can provide this quote unquote life. I've seen this day after day, time after time in my own life, even with, unfortunately, with my niece and her baby father. And I'm like, he done told you he wasn't about nothing, but you still went ahead and procreated. Whole nother story. But once again, it's also lack of self-esteem as well. It's a lot of lack of self-esteem within us as, Black women and also with Black men. And once again, that's a manifestation of what we see now. And yes, because I like that our youth are seriously unemployed. I remember growing up in Boston, it was an honor. You 14 years old and you get that city job, over the summertime. I think they cut a lot of those programs out across the board when it comes to our young people. So I totally understand. This
Black, I'm gonna address that one. I'm gonna address that one from my perspective, right? When I was younger, Black Larry, women were attracted to the D-boys. Women wanted that you had to be edgy. You had to be street, but not a thug, so to say. You had to have some type of swag with you, but you couldn't be corny, right? So at a certain time, yes, they wanted you to get yourself together, get a job, stop going back and forth to jail, but they wanted you to have some street wisdom. The way that you change that in the culture, the way that you change and really get what women are attracted to, what younger women are attracted to, is to you be where your feet are. And I say that to say that if a young man is working, say if he's 18, graduating high school, he's working two, 3 jobs. and he's focused on building what he's trying to build on, the right women will come. We're doing it backwards. We're chasing relationships before we have anything on the table, before we bring anything to the table. Like what? Oh, I want to push up on this young lady. You have nothing to push up on. And this is where a lot of people didn't understand the brother Kevin Samuels. And I kind of understood exactly where he was coming from. Because a lot of times people want the perfect situation when you bring 2-3 kids here. You ain't been in your child's life. You ain't got you got a job, but you ain't got no career. But you talking about you want a dude. I mean, you want a female that's making 6 figures. You want a female that's going to treat you like a king, and you're not even treating yourself like a king. So I believe that it's important that the younger people, when you want to change, when you want to make a real cultural shift, and the reason why I can say it can happen, right, is because I seen the phase where the women wanted the D-boy. And then towards the late 90s into the early 2000s, those type of women hated the D-boy now because he kept going back and forth to jail, because he kept having people running up in her house, because her life was in danger because of what he was doing. Those type of women began to refocus on what they wanted. And if he didn't want that, them women would be like, you still in the streets? So I say that if you want the quality of a relationship that you want, it's going to be what you put forth. You have to put forth what you want. You have to establish yourself. Like I said, a lot of people, and I don't want to go too far off the subject in the conversation of Black men and mental health, but a lot of people are being in relationships or attempting to be in relationships, and they shouldn't. It goes back to what Dr. Short always say, brother fuckers. They have, excuse me, Professor Dre, for my language, but they have no dick discipline. You don't need to be in a relationship. You bring nothing to the table. You don't even got a car. You ain't got a G-Ride. And that's not the end-all, be-all to a relationship. However, can you buy yourself some cosmetics? Do you have your own place? Are you living on somebody's couch? And we need to ask ourselves as younger men, we need to ask ourselves, what we bringing to the table? Mm-hmm. Why is she? Now, if you're in a relationship, you married or whatever you could be in, right? It is a privilege that she come home to you every day. It's not a right. It's a privilege. Why should she come home to you every day? What are you providing for her to come home every day, come home to you every day, and vice versa? What is she doing where she got you coming home every day? Mm-hmm. So I say that the younger men, like I said in the beginning, women emulate men. You want to know why these women, as we say, sometimes in these spaces, these women act the way they act? Because these men ain't strong. It's too much sucker shit running around. It's too many men that don't know how to be men. They don't know how to be loyal to men, and they don't know how to be loyal to our women. But anyway, that was a little tangent, but I apologize.
No, but you made a good point. But once again, that goes back to the ego. Hey, Star. Hey, Sister Star. It goes back to the ego because it's interesting we having this conversation because 2 weeks ago I went to a nonviolent summit where I live at, and it was presented by like majority Black men that was professionals, some police officers, principals, and a superintendent. And I thought, oh, this is and a judge. It was a great summit, and I like what all the it was Black, it was everybody that was Black. And I like what they said, and it said the main thing is going back to the environment and ego, and it talked about mainly young Black boys. And they talked about how even at that young age, it's an ego thing. Even though you have some young black boys who are sensitive, right? We all, but what do y'all hear? Man up, be quiet, stop that crying. Because I done heard my dad say that to men in my family, right? And then they emotionally suppress. And then also too, what you gonna do with that suppression? You're gonna turn it into inward anger, and then you have behavioral issues. Me being a social worker for 20 years, I'm gonna tell y'all the number one diagnoses you see in young black boys under 18: conduct disorder, oppositional defiant disorder. Also, you see ADHD, right? When we get into the neural, you hear that term neurodivergent. All it is emotionally suppression. Where are they going to release that at? How have we even deprogrammed our young black boys to release that? And if we be like, hey, go to therapy, go and journal. Oh, that's weak. That's the white man stuff. To go to therapy. And a lot of times we're not even going to our primary care physicians. And if we do go, we're not telling the truth, saying, hey, I noticed my son is acting out. What's going on? And it always doesn't have to be they're putting on psychotropic medication. A lot of times is, hey, what's going on? I see you. I value you. Hence why we need more black men to step up and be mentors, coaches, whatever the case is, so they can have a safe space to release that psychological and emotional unsafety. A lot of our young black men, and I'm not even going to talk about the girls, are not safe within their own bodies or even can express, hey, this is what's going on, because like you said, Q, they don't have that emotional intelligence or even the interpersonal skills, the communication skills to say, hey, I am sad because whatever the case is, fill in the blank, because they've been told you ain't supposed to be sad, be quiet, suck it up. Especially if they're dealing with a grief, then it turns into complicated grief. Let's say they lost a important figure in their life. They can't show that outward emotion by crying because that's now your soft. So where are they going to now release that emotions in a safe space? And especially if you got the parent who's always yelling and screaming at them. Let's keep it real with that. You got, let's say, one parent who's raising, I'm going to say 5 kids by herself, and she's yelling and screaming at the kids. So where is he going to find that safety at? Not at school, right? Because a lot of times, oh, he's acting out at school. He got that conduct disorder. And knowing he may learn differently. It's been so much research that our young black boys, they learn differently, right? And a lot of times it's not acting out. So even we need to change the scope of the resources in the school. Who's the teachers in the school, okay? That's why there's a lot of initiatives of black men going to college to become teachers, to become social workers, because even in a mental health profession, I can count the number of black social worker men that I know that either I went to school with, I met during my travels as being a social worker and a professor. And we need that because, once again, representation, especially when it comes to mental health, that does matter, because once again, these black men are going to release that because they get tired of seeing this. Let's keep it real. They raised by black women. They probably surrounded by a lot of black women. They get tired of seeing us. They need to see more black men and strong black men who are well-rounded. So that's why I was happy that I went to that summit, because I've seen black men who, I'm not saying they had it together, but that actually, we have such a stigma against police officers, but they was actually like, yo, we're trying to help bridge the gap so we can reduce the number of black men having crash outs, so we won't have to put them in prison or mandate them to go to a program. Go ahead, Q.
I want to ask you a question, and I want to ask Sister Star a question because I know she's in the chat. Right? This is a personal question. It's not going to be too personal. You were college professor at your alma mater. How do you feel when you see a black man dressed up?
I love it. I think it's a beautiful thing. And let me take it a step back. Okay, Q. You talking about somebody whose father, only saw my father in jeans 3 times my whole life, and I'm 42 years old. So I'm used to seeing black men dressed up. right? Because my dad dressed up, and my dad worked at the hospital. Even he wore his Stacy to work, and he changed it to his scrubs. So I love seeing black men dressed up. I think they look debonair. I think they look handsome. They act even differently when they're dressed up. And they just set a tone of like powerful, discipline. And I'm, like you mentioned about discipline, their hygiene on point, the colognes on point. I love seeing that because that just shows a different dynamic of black men.
Yeah, Sister Star, that's the question I got for you. How do you feel when you see black men dressed up? We know that the brothers that do the Silver Fox, everybody likes these guys because they always sharp. But just the average black man, and I say that to say, when you go out, when you go to the supermarket, if you just see a guy that's suited, as we would say, suited and booted, and you can smell him from 3 aisles away, you don't even have to be physically attracted to this guy. But he's distinguished. He stands out. You gonna even give him a compliment. Don't have him have on no Creed, and you know what Creed smell like. You're gonna be like, oh.
Exactly.
A compliment. And the reason why I say that is because when you raise the bar, and I'm gonna put your answer up in the question in 1 second, Star. When you raise the bar and you begin to see this, like you saw this every day in your life, Dre, then you like, this is what men's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is what this is the expectation.
Right.
Okay, you see a guy, he got on the gray sweatpants, and we know what that means because you can see stuff. That only go but so far.
Exactly.
That, I mean, he could open up his mouth and you'd be like, oh, it's nut. He don't know nothing. So I say that to say that we as black men, and like I said, I don't want, this is not a relationship conversation. However, when you're talking about the social relationship, because younger black men and black men in general who we're talking about, and why we're talking about them, they're part of our society. Mm-hmm. They're part of us. So black women do need to be more involved with helping and healing and curing our ills. We need to continue to work together and resolve some of our issues. Mm-hmm. So I said, I've never seen my father in jeans. My father is retired military and was put together. She said, I love it with an exclamation point.
Exactly.
I love seeing brothers well dressed.
Yes.
Or in uniforms. Yeah. I mean, and think about that. I mean, even some men, when they do their yard work, like, oh, he just going outside. He got yard work on. He got sneakers, but they clean. He look clean, like he going outside. And you know, I say this because sometimes, right, when I was living by my sisters, I have a sister that's super critical, love her to death, but she's super critical of people. And she'd be like, what you got on? and that was her way of saying, are you looking at yourself? You know, so that's one of the premises of being able to address our younger people who are very sheltered. You even see it now. And Drea brought up when she was talking about the YNs. I personally, now Pennsylvania's laws has changed. You can't do it as much no more. But I'm offended that so many young brothers wear shiesties. Mm-hmm. I'm offended that brothers is covering their face.
Right.
Show who you are. Because where I'm from and where I was raised, when you was covering your face, you was up to something.
Exactly.
And I don't need to be profiling no younger black men as an older black man, like, yo, I need to be on point around old boy because he trying to do something. Mm-hmm. Younger black men nowadays, they're very guarded. Because they don't have the social skills. We have a situation at my job where I work at where on any given day it may be 15 people, 14 new people there in the morning when we meet up. So you get new people that's in the company, just started, whatever. So usually we all, it's like a meet and greet every morning. And you see it with the younger Black employees. When they come, they sit in the car, they don't get out, they don't greet, they don't meet nobody. And then I have to go and I have to be like the grandfather and be like, yeah, I've been here such and such amount of years. You good? We got you. We gonna make sure you all right. And it's really a social disorder that they're not used to greeting. And I feel like, because of the area where we work at, I'd rather make them feel comfortable than make them feel, allow them to feel uncomfortable or add to their uncomfortability, because you're in a working environment. Got a shiesty on, your hood like this, got a hat on. Now I understand sometimes it might be cold, but come on, you guard it.
Exactly. And see, for me, when I was at my alma mater working, and the young Black men that was taking my classes, I'm not even gonna hold y'all. I would show them more attention and be like, "Yo, I want to hear from you. What's going on?" Because I taught an interpersonal skills class, so I was like, "You're not gonna leave this class skill-less. You're gonna be adding to that toolbox because you need to know how to open your mouth and advocate for yourself, and not do it sound like you a mumble rapper." Right? Because I don't want nobody coming to me like, "You taught this kid and he doesn't even know how to present himself when it comes to being a client," right? And at the same time, and you a young Black man, so I used to always just be on them like, "Yo, what's your plan? I need to know your plan." And I would even get in their business like, "Who you dating? Why you need to be disciplined. You need to be sexually disciplined." And I don't think we have those honest conversations. Because when I used to talk to them, they be looking at me like, "Oh, she's like my mom." And then let me see what your outfit, because a lot of them, we'll bring them to conferences. Let me see what your outfit look like. And when those young men dressed up, and it was about like five of them, all the women at the conference would be chasing them because they had their suits on. I said, "Y'all know y'all got to come correct. I need to see the fit." So, we need to have those conversations to upbuild our young men and say, once again, it's a safe space to be who you are. But, it's okay to dress up. It's okay to be vocal. It's okay to advocate for yourself. It's okay to have a preference too, and I think people get upset about that. And it's okay to be different from the environment that you was in. That doesn't mean that you're better than anyone, but it's okay to, like you said, to raise the bar and the standards. But it comes from, once again, within, because we're seeing a lot of things that's going within and manifesting to the crash outs. Since we're seeing people unalive themselves, their whole family, we never used to see that in our community, right? We see it in other communities, but we're seeing that because of, once again, the mental health is suffering. People are not seeking help. And a lot of times, too, our young men are dabbling into the substance abuse, right? And a lot of those substance abuses are now turning into, schizophrenia, psychosis, anxiety, depression, bipolar. We seeing so many things manifesting due to, okay, now I gotta numb myself by self medicating. And while you can go and get a therapist and probably get put on some medication to check those imbalances. But once again, we gotta get off the stigma of, oh, that's for the white man, the therapy and going to a primary care or a psychiatric help. That's for them people. No, it's for all of us. And we gotta tap into that.
Yeah, there is and I'm gonna put this up. I'm gonna put this thing up. I did a little research, but when I saw that suicide is the third cause of death for young Black men, I was shocked. I was shocked. I was shocked because I think it would be gun violence, heart attack, something rare, that certain health things are coming down far as age, where it's alarming rates. But to know that suicide is the third leading cause of death for Black youth. About 1 in 5 Black adults have a mental health condition. 50% reported increased recent need for support. Only 15% of those with a condition receive treatment. We must, as Drea said, we must challenge the stigma and expand community-based care. Some of the key factors that I know we discussed them already was impact of chronic racial discrimination, like Black Larry said, white WS, limited access, fewer Black providers, cost barriers, underinsurance, and the cultural stigma, like Sister Professor Drea was saying, and the medical mistrust. Do we trust our physician?
Right.
Do we understand that our physician should be there to listen to your symptoms? One of the things, and you guys may not realize, but and I learned this, and I'm learning this. We're even doing some of the work with Sister Azima, and I have a great relationship with my primary care physician. I've had this doctor for about 3 years. And when I mean that me and this doctor have a great relationship, I have a great relationship with her and her staff. She has an assistant. Anything that I tell her that's wrong, she jumps on it. I'm a proponent of my chart, and having information. Honestly, just to let you guys know, I just had a medical situation last week where everything went well. So I have that trust with the primary care physician because I believe that she's there to assist me. See, sometimes we're under this guise that whatever the doctors say, they know our body. No, you know your body.
Right.
So if you have an issue, you tell them your symptoms. And if I had any issues where I think that I needed some mental health assistance, I know she would direct me to the right people. Even if it is a Black doctor, Black Larry, and she's melanated.
But I think and that's important too, because like I said in the chart that you showed, that's another reason why it's a stigma, because of the culturally competent of a lot of us are not in these fields. And when it comes to Black men, only less than 1% of Black men are psychologists. And when it comes to mental health, like I said, in social work, being a social worker for 20 years, I can count the number of Black male social workers I know personally. Some of them I trained, being on the side of in academia, right? And they're spread it out in so many different ways. But we have to also too understand, like, you gotta first go seek help first. And number one, self-awareness. I have an issue. I'm acting out, or every time I'm having a disagreement with my significant other, I don't want to take accountability or correction, or I'm laying in bed, or I'm lethargic, or this is what's going on. I'm self-medicating. A lot of Black men don't want to listen. You gotta listen and be honest and be connected to your body and say something's off. Like you said, with you know your body, something's off. And a lot of times our environment encourages nonsense. But go ahead.
One of the things that was very, very important when I moved. When I moved from New Jersey, about 10 and a half years ago. And when I first started going to this doctor that I had in the hospital in the area, the medical facility in the area, with this area I moved to was big on hereditary conditions, taking your blood, asking you a lot about your family history. And because of my mother and how she raised her kids, me and my siblings share a lot with each other as far as our medical conditions, and knowing my mother's medical condition, her siblings. I know from when I know one grandmother was diabetic. She had a heart condition at a certain age. And my other grandmother and my grandfather, for example, they asked you when I just had I had a colonoscopy. They asked you, did anybody in your family history ever had colon cancer? No. Mm-hmm. And I can say that knowingly, that I know of, all the way back a couple generations. So I say that because a lot of people don't realize, like, when you have those hereditary conditions, you're letting your physician know. Some of us have major mental health issues. I have an uncle that's um, my uncle is really big into NA, and he always says we might have had some mental health issues because he's been into NA. He's been clean almost 25 years, so he's into it. He's involved. He actually does a lot of outreach work in North Carolina. So I say that to say that he's on the mental health thing. Like, look, maybe it's more of a mental health issue while people deal with substances. So it's very important that we know our specific family history understanding. There are some markers. There are some things that's there. I know some families that have dealt with suicides. It's like one person each generation, unfortunately, have committed suicide in a particular family that I know.
Right.
So Sister Star said, yeah, families are isolated now. Everyone eats has separate activities. Kids are going through something. They turn to their peers. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, most people don't even realize, like, it's okay to go through your kid's tablet and look at the history of what they're looking up. I know when I have the little people at my house, I have a block on my internet where they can't even access nothing.
Yeah.
So they'd be like, what's the code for the block? And I'll be like, what you need it for? And sometimes I'll tell them, or I'll tell them, go in the living room, use the TV, and I'll look at the TV so I can know what they're doing.
And it's important to start young because, and even complimenting young men. I do that all the time. Like, I remember one time I was in the store and people have been like, "Oh my God, those are YNs." And I said, "Well, good evening, gentlemen. Oh, hey, ma'am, how you doing?" Now, mind you, I live in the South. And they was like, "Hey, ma'am, how you doing?" And the people was looking like, she was able to talk to them. Have a conversation. How y'all doing? How old are you? Okay, all right. It look like you play sports. Oh, you know what? You should go be an engineer. And you will be amazed of having a conversation with these gentlemen. How far you can get and what seed you're planting. Because if we always say, "Oh, he a YN, he a YN, he a YN," he gonna what? You planting that seed, you watering it, and then they're gonna believe that, right? So once again, it's the self esteem, how we speak to these young boys. Even like it says in that chart, the resources. I like seeing the older gentlemen going to the schools and giving them the high five and mentorship. And mentorship is so important. I know, some pro black folks don't like the word. That's not a good word. Whatever word you want to use, be something special to these young men in their life, whether it's coaching, whether it's just once again being a safe space. We need to see order back. We need to see that back in our community because I mean, like you mentioned, it's just a lot of chaos that's going on. And then, like you said, the young women turning into that. They shouldn't want to say, "Well, I want to be a scammer too because my boyfriend's a scammer." It's like we need to help them to ascribe better. And by also too, we got to be the example as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, great conversation. I was all amped up. I'm amped up, excited. Wanted to have this conversation because I noticed that a lot of these older people in my age group, they done became the get off my lawn people all of a sudden. They done forgot all the stuff that they done took their people through during their journey. They done forgot how much heartache they caused their mothers, sisters, grandmothers. They done, forgot about them late calls. Talk about call the bell bondsman. They don't know everything. And you see it on definitely on the internet. So many men, for the sake of not having content and not trying to bring home a point, but so many men sitting on the internet arguing with women. It's not what we do.
Right.
Bring home a point. You talking about a subject matter, passionate about the matter, and that's it. But when you use the internet and you do stuff that's unbecoming of a man, you sitting there arguing with women all day. It's men that sit on the internet and argue with women all day.
Right. And so what kind of example they are? They're not a good example because then people see this content that content is always pushed through the algorithm, right? And then here goes the young man. Oh, I can sit here and argue with homegirl. Now I'm gonna take it a step further and unalive all of us because she's trying to get her point across to me, and I don't want to listen because I'm an ego. I done got hurt now, right? Emotional suppression. I'm about to go unalive everybody, her mama too.
Because the reality is this is the great thing about what I do with the brothers when we do Pat Talk. The patriarchy is not supposed to be oppressive. The patriarchy is not supposed to be waving their finger and pointing at. The patriarchy is about being leaders,
Hmm.
being where your feet are, being responsible men, and bringing it back to being, for lack of better words, men are the maintainers of the earth,
Right.
and women have their role as well. We believe that. I believe that. I know some people don't believe it and be like, no, I don't believe that. It ain't. It's roles. It's natural roles.
Hmm.
And you'll realize that when those roles are fulfilled, it's peace and tranquility and order. When those roles are not fulfilled, when it's mayhem, disham, and all types of crazy stuff. Definitely in the black community. The black community is the biggest case study.
It is.
You want to look anywhere and case study. You want to look at any society. You can look at the black communities in other places. You're not going to get the answers there. And I'm not saying that we're different, but we are different.
Hmm.
Black American community. If you want to do a case study on any situation, look at the Black American bit.
Absolutely. I agree with that. That we definitely need to be studied. We have been studied. And like you said, you can see right there, like you said, all the atrocities that we have been through generationally. And it's like we got so many resources and tools now to fix it, but folks do not want to come together. They want to have all these millions and thousands of podcasts talking about you the problem, everybody the problem, and everybody need to go get therapy, but they ain't gonna do that though.
That's right. So, Professor Drea, you're coming back in 2 weeks. You
Yeah.
coming back?
I'm coming.
Okay.
Okay, I'm coming back.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on.
I love these conversations because it's
I
up
know
my
that
alley.
you really do a lot. I want you to explain to this audience about the stuff you and Shamika do.
Okay, so my best friend Shamika and I, we have this group called the Careers Project. So we help. Well, we have scaled it down to women because we try to get men come to us. That's fine. Help women put them back together holistically. So she does the career coaching piece. I do the life coaching piece because I am a life coach as well, and bring those two together. Because once again, we are holistic people because we look at the mind, body, and spirit, and so we help women in groups. Mainly our demographics have been Black women. Just putting them back together, and it happened really during COVID because COVID was really just a whammy on everybody of just like people losing their jobs, losing their minds. So we decided to create this project together, and we're branching out and looking to do other groups of women who are actually in a vulnerable population, like the homeless women, women who've been sex trafficking, human trafficking, because those are big. We don't talk about those enough either. So that's what we do. It's pretty cool. We have took a hiatus. Now we're kicking back up for 2026. Can't believe we're gonna be in 2026.
Yeah. And one of the things that Professor Gray had mentioned was what she's doing with Shamika, and she also does a personal blog every day in reference to what she said about human trafficking. For you guys in the chat, that is going to be something that Dr. Short is going to personally take the mantle of, with having a legacy of fulfilling the legacy of his mom. He'll let you guys know what he's going to be doing in the near future, because we need to realize that it is modern day slavery.
Yes.
It is something that is on, as they say, the black market. It is what most people think is a commodity. Like when you look at commodities on the stock market, no, there's a black market that trades people.
Mm-hmm.
We'll address that, and Dr. Short as well as Professor Dre. They don't know each other like that, but these are two people that are working behind the scenes on bringing awareness and the stoppage of modern day slavery and human trafficking. Professor Dre, I appreciate you as always.
Thank you. Thank y'all
Glad,
for even watching. Thank you.
glad you was able to come through. Appreciate everything. And with that, everybody take care. Remember, the best way to support the channel is to like, share, subscribe. Get the word out what we're doing. Don't get me wrong. We there are a lot of issues that are going on. Wink, wink, and quotes. And they'll be addressed when they need to be addressed. But we need to understand that we need to always be where your feet are, and your feet are facing forward for a reason. Always look forward in spite of what's going on, definitely in our community and dealing with some of the ills. You could go to different other people's channels and get different stuff. And I appreciate that you do that.
Yeah.
However, don't be so consumed with drama and or beef where it don't got you looking forward to what you need to look forward to, your goals, and being able to protect yourself in this spot. With that, appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.